Welcome back to Middle Fingers Up. I'm your host, Kieran, and this is another It's Good to Gup Shup segment between you and I. So today's segment is inspired by the phrase, at least it's not ... So this conversation comes from a lot of those in-betweens of conversations I've been having with loved ones and friends over the last couple of weeks, and how the Air India plane crash has impacted a lot of our community in all sorts of ways. And the common thread in these conversations from everyone that I've been speaking to is about moving forward, pushing through, and this need to be grateful for our own lives and where we're at. And if you know me, I'm a big fan of, we don't always have to be grateful for being grateful. I want to talk a little bit about how to honor the feelings that we are experiencing, as well as being grateful. You can do both those things. So you know this phrase, at least it's not ... You know this phrase, you've either said it or it's been said to you. You're going on a trip, it gets canceled, and someone says, well, at least it wasn't non-refundable. You're having a really bad work week, and someone says, well, at least you have a job. You are expressing how badly your job as a parent is going, and someone says, well, at least you can have a kid. It's always this way of trying to be grateful for what you have, but it doesn't always come out that way. So I just want to unpack this a bit with you guys. What's going on in our minds when we say this, and what happens to the person that's hearing it, as well as why are we so wired to search for this silver lining, even when it feels sometimes a silver lining that we're so searching for is like putting duct tape on a deep ass cut. Okay, so maybe we can start with the brain and this need for the brain to compare. If we know the brain and we just look at how it operates, sometimes it can help us understand ourselves better and help us realize a lot of us do this because our brains operate very similarly. And one of the things our brain does is it loves patterns. It searches for patterns, and it also loves minimizing perceived threat. And it's doing this when particularly something bad happens. Really what our brain is trying to help us with is to keep from going into crisis, to keep from spiraling. One of its favorite ways to do this is the comparison part. And the whole, at least it's not worse, is our brain trying to regulate. It's trying to engage what we call the prefrontal cortex, so the front of the brain right here. I'm touching my forehead for anyone that's not watching. And that's our logic center. That is where we are doing our planning, our organizing, our critical thinking, everything but using our feelings and our emotions. And it's our brain's place of bringing us back from the back of the brain, where the amygdala is in charge of our fight, flight, fawn, freeze responses to bad things happening like trauma, crisis. And it's really our brain's way of saying, okay, this sucks, but we can manage. We're okay. It's really not that bad. And from a survival point of view, this makes sense. Thank you, brain. We love it because you're protecting us. You're trying to keep us safe. But I think the other thing to all of this is, on one hand, it's helping us on the survival safety part. The other hand is emotional safety and survival are two different things. And so what ends up happening there, this tricky part, is while the brain's doing what it's designed to do, the heart doesn't always catch up as quick. And so someone's telling you, oh, at least it's not as bad as blah, 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 blah. And you're like, yep, the brain's logically doing its thing. Sure. That may be true, but emotions aren't logical. So they're going to want to go where emotions want to go, which is the messy, layered, and very specific to the moment place. So what ends up happening is we skip to the coping. We don't want to feel the badness, we call it the messy middle. We just want to get to the end and be like, fine, push through. And the other part of this is feelings don't like being skipped either. So when we push through them, they will find a way to show up either through exhaustion, resentment, even the classic numbness. The cost of skipping ahead is the more we skip over what we're really feeling and jump to being grateful, the more we're actually missing something. We're missing the truth of the moment, where we're truly at, and we're not giving ourselves permission. And this will add up over time. So gratitude is powerful, absolutely, but not when it's a shortcut. If we don't sit with what's real, we don't process it. And then we just file it away somewhere deeper. We tuck it away, and then it's going to come out eventually. So this is when we have big ass emotions for something not so big. We end up showing signs of anxiety, irritability, being disconnected from joy when everything is fine. So sometimes the long route to healing is pretending it's okay when it's not, only to end up breaking down months later over something small, as I was saying. So when you realize that you can't actually feel gratitude for things anymore because you've been masking it for so long. And so instead of all of that, what if we just give ourselves permission to be where we're at and say, yeah, this is shitty. This is a bad thing that's happened. This is disappointing. I am feeling pain. So trusting that naming it, not fixing it, not explaining it away is actually what gets us through quicker when we're trying to do the fast route anyway. So just experiencing that I'm impacted by this tragedy that happened, and I'm allowed to be impacted. I'm allowed to feel what I'm feeling, and I want to explore that. I want to be curious about that. And when we allow ourselves to do that, simplest thing is really the shortcut is allowing ourselves to just feel it. So there's this cultural layer to all of this. I think for us South Asians, children of immigrants, we grew up around stories of it could be worse, right? Like hearing our elders' journeys to and from school, where we get driven here. It's a quick walk, siblings having to share one pencil, no shoes to wear to school, like these sort of big, grand things that our elders had to do in comparison to what we are doing in the privilege we're living in today. So when you think of relatives having to flee political unrest, you're likely told, okay, be grateful for getting to be in North America, be grateful for having freedom. And so at least you can sleep safely at night. And you think, yeah, okay, these are all the things that I should be grateful for. You sort of feel this guilt. So we start to internalize it. And when we internalize that gratitude, often what it does is it's denying discomfort. It's like, I got to be grateful, but at the same time, I'm not allowing myself to actually feel the things that I'm really feeling. So I'm lying to myself. I think we have to understand, like, we often think appreciation and pain, they can't coexist. I can't be grateful for my privilege as well as being upset about whatever it is that's happening around the world. And so they can coexist, and they should coexist, your discomfort and your gratitude. It makes sense why our elders use this kind of thinking. They didn't always have access to space like you and I do right now, where you can emotionally process, you can reflect. And so their survival really depended on pushing forward, not feeling, but getting to a place of function, because that's what functionality was the way to be. And so this whole, well, at least it's not dot, dot, dot. It's kind of like a mindset that's built as an armor. And in some ways, it served its purpose. It helped people endure. But now many of us aren't just in this place where we need to survive and function. We talk about thriving. We talk about in a place of healing. And so we're trying to connect to feel safe in our bodies and our stories. And so that means we're starting to take this armor off. And when we say, well, at least it's not worse, I think we often mean well. I know when I've said it, I've meant it well. And I know when it's been said to me, it's been meant well. In these scenarios, the bottom line is we're trying to be helpful. But what the other person may likely be hearing is you're overreacting, your pain is invalid, you should be quiet. And this is kind of where the connection starts to break down. And truthfully, sometimes it's just that we're trying to comfort ourselves more than even the other person. And again, when we go back to the episode the Gup Shup recently done about emotional boundaries, right? We talk in there about that invisible boundary of where do my emotions begin from where do yours end, and that codependency often exists for many of us. And so when we see someone before us that is in pain or upset, it's actually impacting us because we're taking those feelings in, and so we're trying to shut it down because we don't like that discomfort either. And so I think what's going on in that moment too is we don't want to acknowledge it because it would mean that we'd have to change something, we'd have to do something about it. So if we just do that, everything's fine, we're all okay, then we don't have to go to that weird, fearful place of the unknown. Oh, that discomfort, what does it actually truly mean? And that's hard. And sometimes we don't even say, at least it's not out loud, but we're thinking it, and we say things like, well, I shouldn't be upset. Other people have it worse. This is nothing compared to what that person went through. And so there ends up being this silent suffering mindset where we just shut ourselves down before even letting ourselves talk about it. And it's a second nature thing. And again, being honest with you, I think we're needing to talk more about and acknowledge that suffering isn't competition. It isn't comparison. So you don't need to earn your right to express your pain or your upsetness. And healing doesn't require you to ignore your own pain just because someone else is in pain too. And I think that sounds like, oh yeah, I know that, but more than not, we don't acknowledge that. We're very disconnected from that. And what we continue to compete in this suffering. Maybe what we can encourage ourselves to do more, be more curious about is, okay, like how can I sort of break that? And when my reflex of at least it's not starts to come out, I can take a beat, pause, breath, and say things to the person before me or to myself that aren't really about fixing it, but are about acknowledging where we're at. So I'm really sorry. This sounds hard. Do you want to talk about it? I hear you, and it's okay to feel this way. I've been there. And even something like, would you like empathy, or would you like some ideas right now? Because I think when we're trying to be helpful and get someone through, we don't often acknowledge that where their brain is at is in the crisis back place. And so when you're in this crisis state, you're in no place to be hearing solutions and ideas. And it's really frustrating. It's like, get the F out of my face. It makes the situation even worse. So I think checking into of like, I don't want to assume I know where you're at. And is that what you're looking for? It's okay to be able to share with our loved ones and people we care about, and share with them how we want to be supported, how we want to be validated. And it's also okay to ask them, like, how would you like to work through this situation? So these kinds of responses can honor, again, what's real without trying to jump to fix it mode. They help tell that other person, I see you're in pain and I'm comfortable with sitting here, and I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable sitting here with you. You're safe. You're not too much. Look, gratitude is beautiful. I love it. But I don't think it's great when it's weaponized to bypass real emotions. And we can be grateful and grieving. We can be okay and not okay. We don't always need to rank pain to make it valid. So next time our brain is trying to go to that place of at least it's not dot dot dot, again, let's just pause, take a breath, and instead of minimizing it, making it small, be with it, allow it, tell yourself, I am hurting. That did impact me. Middle fingers up moment. So I wrote this down. I was thinking about this episode when I was putting it together, and I want to put my middle fingers up to the idea that the only way to appreciate life is to downplay our pain. So, middle fingers up to this guilt based gratitude. I don't think we need to hurt quietly just because someone else has had it worse or harder. Like, everyone's experiences matter, full stop. And that's it. That's it for the Gup Shup today. I hope this episode resonated with you. Send us a message. Let us know your thoughts if you want to add to it. These conversations are door openers. So we're just scratching the surface. We always say we want to build off of these conversations. Maybe you have some depth. Maybe you feel this conversation will sit well with another person. Send it along their way. And I think sometimes when we give feedback, we send these sorts of things along other people's way. It's sort of reminding ourselves like the light lands softer when we also allow the dark. So I'm Kieran. Thank you for this It's Good to Gup Shup moment. Hope to see you again next week. Have a good one.